Welcome to our special service. This is a memorial service for Eshinni, Kakushinni, and Lady Yoshiko Ohtani. Eshinni was the wife of Shinran Shonin, the founder of our school of Buddhism, and Kakushinni was their daughter. Lady Yoshiko Ohtani is their biographer. She wrote a book called The Life of Eshinni, wife of Shinran Shonin, that I'll be looking at later. She was also the wife of the Gomonshu, our abbot, from 2 generations ago. And so we'd like to begin our service with sutra chanting, and we'll be chanting Sambutsuge. We are gathered in the presence of Amida Buddha, the embodiment of wisdom and compassion, to observe the memorial service for Eshinni, Kakushinni, and Lady Yoshiko Ohtani. In reflecting on the lives of these Buddhist women who are so important to our Pure Land School, Jodo Shinshu Honganji Ha, may we be grateful for this opportunity to hear the Buddha Dharma, and may we find opportunities to hear the Dharma in our everyday lives. Kogengi Ijin Mugok Nyozen Myo Muyo Tosha Nichigatsumani Shuko Enyo Kai Shitsu Onpei Yunyaku Jumok Nyonai Yogen Chosemunin Shogaku Daiyom Konu Jippo Kaimon Shojin Sammai Chie Itokumunyo Shushoken Jintai Zemnem Shobutsu Hokkai Gujin Jinno Kugogai Tai Mumyo Yokunu Sesson Yomu Ninno Shishi Jin Tokumunyo Kukun Kodai Chie Jinmyo Komyo Iso Shindo Daisen Ganga Sabuts Zai Shoho Kado Shoji Mifuge Dats Fusejoi Kainin Shojim Nyoze Sammai Chie Ijo Gosei Tokubutsu Fugyo Shigam Isai Kuku Isadayam Keshi Ubutsu Yakusem no Kuman Munyo Daisho Shunyo Goja Kunyo Isai Shito Shobutsu Funyo Gundo Kensho Fukyak Hinyo Goja Shobutsu Sekai Bufukake Mushu Setsudo Komyo Shisho Hen Shisho Kok Nyoze Shojim Nijin Nanyo Ryoga Sabutsu Kokudo Daiichi Goshu Kimyo Dojo Chozetsu 国女内音にむとそがとあいみんどだついさい実法内小心熱症状糸がこけなくあんの古物神妙税が心象発願の非力少々欲実法世尊知恵無下上女子孫知が信用下女心子食毒中画行精進忍術不敬ナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブガンニシクドク平等正祭道菩大心往生あなこナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーI'd like to deliver the Dharma message now. So this is kind of a special service for our Buddhist Women's Association, or BWA. I think almost now all of the BCA temples have a Buddhist Women's Association, and they have them in Japan too. In Japan, it's known as Bukkyo Fujinkai. Bukkyo is Buddhism, Fujin is women, Kai is gathering or group. And so ours is known as the OBWA, Oakland Buddhist Women's Association, and they put the temple name there at the beginning. Now this service is in honor of three very important women in our tradition. And as I mentioned earlier on, Eshinni was the wife of our founder, the founder of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, Shinran. And that's a really kind of significant point about our kind of Buddhism. That, Shinran actually was a monk, and yet he didn't uphold the precepts. He didn't follow the monastic rules, and he did get married and also had children, the youngest of whom was Kakushinni. That was their daughter. And so a lot of if you want to learn about them, one book that's really good is The Life of Eshinni, wife of Shinran Shonin. This is probably out of print, but your temple might have it, although it's hard to get to your temple these days, or you might have it in your collection. If you have it in your collection, I think it's really worth looking at again and again. It has a biography of Eshinni's life, but then also translation of her letters. Now, these letters are fascinating. These are letters from the mother to the daughter, from Eshinni to Kakushinni. Kakushinni actually towards the end of Shinran's life, was in Kyoto and was with him when he died. And that is taken up in one of the letters. And they talk about everyday kind of stuff, talk about the difficulty of being so separated. They talk about some religious stuff. So some of what we know about Shinran and his kind of more like daily life kind of stuff as opposed to the doctrinal stuff that he wrote about. Right, we know that from these letters. And so I kind of wanted to share one of the letters, but first I just wanted to point out, I think historically women have been often treated as second-class citizens, right? There's often been difficulties in societies, the various societies throughout the world, and I don't think that India was different in that respect, nor was China or Japan. And even now, right, Japan is generally viewed, I think, as less egalitarian gender-wise than the United States, although the United States is always kind of back and forth and seems to be maybe slipping backwards right now. But one of the hallmarks of Mahayana Buddhism was movement towards equality, egalitarianism, right? And in the older forms of Buddhism, men, I think, were viewed as more capable than women, and monks much more capable than lay people. But Mahayana talks about monks and lay people. I'm sorry, monks and nuns, laymen and lay women, right? So that it kind of is bringing up, it's lessening the distinction, the hierarchy of monks and nuns being better than lay people. But also it mentions monks and nuns, lay men and lay women. It's very specific in pointing out the gender there as well. And so Mahayana Buddhism has that aspect, but then also Pure Land Buddhism also has an aspect of focusing maybe more on lay people, although monks or monastics are part of it as well. But then also specifically addressing women's equality and trying to flatten that out so that we don't have that inequality, right? Aiming towards equality and away from inequality. So this is just, to me, a really important and wonderful part of Pure Land Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism in general. It doesn't mean that all people are the same, right? Exactly the same, but that they're equal. And this can be kind of difficult to grasp, but I think it's really important that we think about it in these times when we're kind of having these culture wars on so many levels. And so I personally believe in equality amongst all human beings, whether by gender or race or sexual preference or whatever. Right? And so I think we can see this in the life of Eshinni and Shinran and Kakushinni, right? That this aiming towards equality, right? Aiming towards a more equal level playing field. Now, the letter that I want to read is on a slightly different topic, but these letters were written in medieval Japan. This is after Shinran died. Shinran died 1263, so this is kind of later 1200s, 13th century Japan, and now they lived far apart. Eshinni had to go back to her home up in Echigo, this northern Japan. And Shinran and Kakushinni were in Kyoto at that point. So Shinran and Eshinni were living separately for quite a while. Shinran seemed to have gone back to Kyoto to work on his Kyogyo Shinsho, his kind of magnum opus, defending the Pure Land teachings. And so Eshinni wrote letters to Kakushinni, and I wanted to share one of those. This is letter 8 in this book. It's on page 98. Let me read the letter first and then talk about it a little bit. I am happy to be writing this letter because there is a chance that it will be delivered to you. I have frequently entrusted my letters with different messengers in the past, but have they ever reached you? I am 83 years old this year, and because it said that I would die either last year or this year, I always want to hear everything from you, but there are no reliable messengers. I was recently notified that the 5-tiered 7-yard stone pagoda, which I had ordered and which I thought I would erect while still alive, has been completed. But recently I had to change residences, and moreover, all the servants have run away because of the famine. There is no one I can rely on, but still I want to erect the pagoda while I am still living. I understand that it will soon be completed and brought here, so I want to somehow have it erected while I am still alive, but I do not know what will happen. In the meanwhile, if I should die, I hope that my children will erect it for me. I always want to hear from you and about everything, as long as I am alive, but when we are living so far apart from each other, it seems that the bonds between parent and child have not really been tied. Especially since you are my youngest offspring, I think of you fondly. I shall probably never have the opportunity of seeing you again, but it is unbearable that I do not hear from you about how you are getting along. So, I think a year ago, if I'd read this letter, I would have thought, wow, things were difficult back then. Hard to get a letter delivered, right? Difficult to communicate, not enough food, famine. Right? But not now, right? Our times are totally different. But reading this letter now, here in October 2020, in the midst of the pandemic, it strikes a little closer to home, I think, right? Difficulties with the mail, right? We're watching our postal system being kind of dismantled, right? Famine, right? Not that we hear so much about famine, but, you know, here in the Bay Area, California, we just had some planned power outages. And it's gotten a little easier to go to the supermarket, but you know, I was out of power for 20 hours. If I brought my stuff to the temple and put it in the refrigerator and freezer here at the temple, but if I didn't have the temple to put it, all that food would have gone bad, right? And I would have had to go out and buy more food. We just hear about more and more unemployment, right? I think it's getting more and more difficult for people to even meet basic needs. And so this letter is becoming more, maybe seeming more, resonating more with what we're going through now. The difficulty she had, she could deliver the letter, but not knowing if it would arrive, right? And I don't think we have Kakushinni's letters back to Eshinni. Right? I don't think that those exist, so we don't know. It sounds like Kakushinni wasn't, well, if she responded, Eshinni didn't receive those responses. Right? And so, you know, it was difficult times, and northern Japan was kind of the frontier at that time. And so, you know, it wasn't an easy job to have stuff delivered. We just take it for granted. We just, you know, that our mail is just delivered so easily, and we get upset. How long did it take? 4 days? Oh my gosh, why not 3 days? You know, 5 business days, but that's going to be 7 days with the weekend. You know, we're so expecting things to come so quickly and automatically. If it gets misdelivered, we get all upset. And right, I ordered something from Amazon, and they said it was delivered, and it was like, I never saw it. And they show a picture with your email of the email notification. It's like, that's not my house, right? It was totally misdelivered. Hey, right, and they sent me another one, and you wouldn't even know if it had been delivered or not back then. The stuff about the stone pagoda is interesting. Here's a picture of what might be being talked about. I think that I can put that up there. And this picture actually also has Lady Yoshiko Ohtani. And so one of the parts that struck me was when she says, I want to somehow have this erected while I am still alive, but I do not know what will happen. And there she seemed, that really struck me as resonating with the letter on white ashes by Renyo, right? One of the later descendants of Shinran. And this idea that when the winds of impermanence blows, our eyes are closed forever. Right? And when the last breath leaves us, our face loses its color. We don't know who is going to go next, young or old, right? We have no idea who's going to pass when. And she's here expressing this uncertainty of impermanence. Also, when she says, she really misses her daughter and really has fond feelings for her daughter, and yet they're living so far apart. And it seems that the bonds between parent and child have not really been tied. Right? And it's kind of heartbreaking, right? And she feels, I shall probably never have the opportunity of seeing you again. I mean, this whole part is just reminding me of how for many people now, they aren't able to see their family, even when you live close to each other, right? Especially, maybe it's gotten a little better now, but when the pandemic started, right, people could be living in the same town and yet not able to visit their parents or their grandparents because it was just considered too dangerous. I knew someone in a BCA temple up in Oregon, and they were saying that they were going to go visit their mom and wave at her from through the window, right? That they could see each other, but they can't be in physical contact. Right? They can be physical proximity, but not be able to be in contact. And so, I don't know. This letter is just resonating with me in that way, on that level. And the times that we're going through now are, I think, very difficult for many people, very sad when people aren't able to be in contact, right? We haven't had the public here at the temple for what, over, let's see, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, right? Over 6 months. And it's sad not to be able to see each other. We're trying, right? With Zoom, with technology, with email, calling, right? We can still stay in touch. But it is difficult. And technology is helping in many ways. Technology isn't always the panacea, right? It's not always the answer to all our problems, but we're trying to use technology, even this YouTube video, to be able to have a service, even though you can't be here at the temple in person. This is interesting, though, how she says, the bonds feel like they have not really been tied. And it's so sad that she says that. I feel like, even though we can't be in contact, the bonds are tied, right? This interconnectedness that we talk about in Buddhism. There is the impermanence, but also interconnectedness, right? And that even when we aren't able to be in touch, we're still connected, right? We still have a deep bond that we share between us, whether between family or friends or sangha, right? That we're actually all interconnected in ways that we're usually not aware of, in ways that we take for granted. So at times, difficult times like this, when we aren't able to be in contact with each other, when we aren't able to be together, we can still maybe feel a connection through Namo Amida Butsu, right? Feel a connection through the Dharma, realizing that we're connected not only with each other, but even with our loved ones who've passed before us, right? And so this is a memorial service, right, for Eshinni, Kakushinni, Lady Yoshiko Ohtani. And so we're connected to them. Without their efforts, we wouldn't have a temple, right? We wouldn't have this Jodo Shinshu Dharma of the vow of Amida Buddha and the Nembutsu. And so special thanks to them. Thank you very much for joining us for our memorial service. Why don't we conclude by reciting the Nembutsu, keeping these very special women in our minds and hearts. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda. Okay, thank you. This will conclude our memorial service. And so I want to really thank you for joining us. Remember, you can go to BuddhistChurchofOakland.org for announcements about upcoming events and here at the temple, and also to donate. You can go there as well via PayPal, or you can send checks in to the office as well. Okay, thank you. Take care, everyone. I hope that this most recent little heat wave and power outage, if you had it turned off, didn't affect you too badly. We're thinking of you, looking forward to the time when we can get back together again in person. So thank you very much, everyone. Take care. Namanda.